What's up, guys? My name is Zack, and today I am driving a 1996 Buick Roadmaster Estate Wagon. Up front is a 5.7-liter V8, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Buick Roadmaster because it's been several years since I've driven a Roadmaster wagon. I've also driven the Roadmaster sedan, and so thoughts and feelings are going to be similar, of course. But I recently have driven a Cutlass wagon from the early 80s. I also have driven some minivans from the 80s and 90s, and so we're going to be talking about how the family vehicle changed in this era, and I think the Roadmaster is a very important part of that story. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel just like this Buick Roadmaster today, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 5.7-liter 350 under the hood. Well, that was the bread and butter, not only of the Roadmaster at the time, but GM in general. We saw the small block Chevy in so many different vehicles. Pick your poison, throw a rock at an old GM dealership lot, and you'll probably hit a car with this engine. And that's a nice thing because A, it makes good power and is reliable enough for them to use it across multiple platforms, but B, it's also semi-easy or pretty easy to find parts here in 2024. So it's a win-win on both fronts. Like I said, paired to it is an automatic transmission. The Buick Roadmaster only ever came with an automatic transmission, so no chucking gears in the dad wagon. Last but not least, the Roadmaster is rear-wheel drive as God intended. How does it feel to drive the Buick Roadmaster wagon? Well, it is splendid. You float and guide over the road unlike anything you'll find here today under $250,000. That's the biggest thing. You could have the Buick Roadmaster for not that much money, and yet this drives like a Rolls Royce. It drives like a Cadillac, and that's sweet. I feel like a fish at Pike's Place Market gliding through the air when I drive the Roadmaster, and that's a beautiful thing. Visibility is also pretty good. It is a 90s car, so it has pretty thin A-pillars and big windows in the back. Steering is nice and easy. No complaints there. It's overall just such a good driving feel. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have several analog gauges. Off to the left is my temperature, in the center is my speed, off to the right is my fuel, and of course I get some warning lights and odometer to the left and right. The steering wheel does have an airbag on it, but that's it. And off to the left, we have our headlight switch, our Twilight Sentinel, climate control vent, and our wiper wash and window buttons down to the bottom left. Moving on to the door, we have our Concert Sound 2 speaker, the sequel to the ever-loved Concert Sound. Lock and unlock, latch to get in and out, and then down on the door, we have our power mirror adjustments, as well as our memory seats and seat tilt. And of course, our window switches, but really interesting to find the seat adjustments on the door. Now, there are more seat adjustments on the seat itself, as well as a heating element, but we'll talk about that in a second. Moving into the center, we do get our climate control options. We get this nice little digital readout. Very cool for 1996. And down below that, we have the standard radio. Volume and tune, cassette player, no CD player here for 96. And then we have a big opening tray, pop-down ashtray and cigarette lighter. And off to the right, we have this Buick Roadmaster badge on the dash, which I think is really, really cool. And moving up into the center console, we do have pop-out cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test. However, very predictably, it fails like everything else in this era. Now, the seats. The seats, of course, do help out that boaty and floaty driving feel, but they are on another level. These seats are so beyond comfortable, and more comfortable than anything you'll find in any modern car at all. Rolls-Royce or not, this is peak seat. And while it's not the comfiest seat I've ever sat in a car ever, that goes to a different GM product, the 1978 Cadillac Eldorado Baritz, this comes pretty doggone close, and I'll take it here today. However, speaking of seats, we do have 2 more rows of seating, so let's go do some backseat reviews. All right, so we're in the second row of the Buick Roadmaster estate, and a couple of things to note. First of all, knee room is fine, headroom's fine. This seat's a little bit further back than what I would like. However, literally a moment before I started filming, the seat started acting up and not wanting to move. It has never not worked until it was ready to be on camera. So normally the seat would be a little bit more forward and I'd have a little bit more space, so not a worry. I don't get a center console or anything like that. However, I don't really care because I get the bubble roof. This Roadmaster has the bubble sunroof, which is fantastic. And although it doesn't open, you actually get these little sunshades, and it's just the coolest thing in the world. Looking out of this bubble roof. I spend a lot of time in national parks. That's like my only hobby outside of reviewing cars. And so the idea of like driving through Arches National Park or Glacier or Acadia is my favorite national park. The idea of looking out the top like this and seeing the most beautiful parts of our country, that is really, really special. And that's part of what made the Roadmaster so special. There's so many other things, but that is just something that you can't not smile at. It's just the coolest. Absolutely love this bubble top, without a doubt. However, we have another cool feature in the trunk, so let's hop back there. All right, so we're on the back of the Buick Roadmaster. Couple of things to note. First of all, pop this glass up, and one of my favorite things on any sort of wagon is when you can open up the rear glass. I think it's super, super helpful. Then you can come in here and you get 2 different handles. So this will operate it as a tailgate down like a pickup truck. This will operate it as a door. So grab this. I love that graphic too, really cool. Grab this one, open it like that, and there you go. You get a giant door around the back of your Roadmaster. But hey, Zach, I don't like that. That seems dumb. Okay, random viewer, no worries. Pull this one, and now it's a tailgate like a pickup truck. Very, very cool tech back in 1996. But once we are back here, we do get the glorious 3rd row seat. Absolutely love that little spot for your feet as well. And you can fold it down and stow it, so then it is just a standard trunk, which has tons of space. Also, you'll see this little tab here. It says pull to remove. That is where your spare tire is. So tons of really, really cool stuff back here. I can only imagine going on road trips in your Roadmaster and sitting in this back row and staring, well, hopefully not just at, random woods or something like that, but something cool, and waving to other drivers as they drove by. Is it safe? No. And is it a bygone era? Yes, but very cool to see here. Then once you want to close it up, really, really light tailgate, and then bring this down nice and easy. There you go. That's the rear end of the Roadmaster. Now we gotta talk about the looks. And first of all, wood paneling, yes, obviously it's a vinyl, but it does have a real trim around it. Absolutely love seeing that. But second of all, it's blue. And the reason I point out that it's blue is that every other Roadmaster I feel like I see, or at least Roadmaster Wagon, I see the sedans in blue. Shout out to Chris with that Roadmaster sedan. I feel like the wagons were always white or dark colors. I really, really like this light, almost Cinderella-y blue. Really, really tickles my fancy, and I always enjoy when my fancy is tickled on YouTube. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving another Buick Roadmaster wagon? Well, part of me wanted to do this video just for preservation's sake, for future generations to understand the significance and how wonderful the Buick Roadmaster was, and that you could find options for your family that wasn't an SUV back in the day. So here it is. Here's my little museum piece of a Buick Roadmaster. However, I do want to talk about the family sedan. So, in the 70s, family vehicles were wagons. That's just how it was. Take a look at this Oldsmobile custom cruiser. That's what the family car was. The Mercury Colony Park, another great example. Wagons offer a lot of light, a lot of storage, and a lot of room while still handling and driving like a regular car. They weren't daunting to drive. It didn't take any special skill to drive this as opposed to a regular Fairlane or regular whatever. So families would often choose a wagon for family duties. But then, in the early 80s, 1984 to be exact, Chrysler came out with the Dodge Caravan and, well, changed the game permanently. Minivans had even more space. They were also easy to drive. But they were purposefully engineered for families. They weren't an adaptation of an already existing vehicle like the wagons were. Wagons were just regular cars that were adapted and changed to have longer roofs. You can't see it on camera now, but literally a Honda Odyssey and a Toyota Sienna are right off to my right. And that's just it. The minivans took the world by storm and made wagons obsolete overnight. Now, of course, companies still sold wagons because they're not just going to randomly stop one day. So throughout the 80s and 90s, you could still buy wagons. But by the end of the 90s, it was pretty clear that the minivan was the family pick for the vehicle. And so every wagon started getting phased out. And while the Buick Roadmaster wasn't the last wagon ever, we also still got a Ford Taurus wagon in the early 2000s. It was the last of the old school wagons, where it had a big, obnoxious, low mile per gallon V8 up front. It sent the power just to the rear two wheels. The Taurus wagon was front wheel drive, and V6 was the biggest engine you could get, but also an inline four. This still had the reverse style third row. This had the wood accents as optional. This car was built and designed for a world that no longer existed in the late 90s. And so the death grip on the family market that the Roadmaster had began to loosen. And I think the biggest spit in the face of all is that the factory that built these was retooled the next year to build the Tahoe and Suburban. I can't imagine a bigger sign of the changing times than that. So here it is, the Buick Roadmaster Estate Wagon. One of the last to ever do it so properly. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Dylan for letting me take out his Buick Roadmaster wagon. I was so excited to do this video. Dylan has been absolutely wonderful. I have filmed many of his cars in the past, and we're doing some more here today. Dylan is wonderful to work with, and I appreciate him very, very much. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.